Hello, everyone, and welcome to Osquery Office Hours. It is August 1st here, and I don't know, summertime in Boston. Hopefully, weather is reasonable where all people are. Um, let's see, announcements and highlights. I forget if it's been since last meeting, but we declared 591 stable. I have not yet updated our web page because I was trying to automate that and am running into nonsense around like the GitHub Actions runner, which I used to create the PR, hasn't signed the CLA, which is obvious because it's a bot. So I'm sort of in the like, do they have to sign the CLA? How's this supposed to work? And I think I'm going to time out and just manually make a website PR for this one because it's been lingering for a little while. But automation inches along. Also, there's a changelog PR up, so someone should review and thumb that, please. Other announcements? Okay. No other announcements. Moving on to questions, issues, or PRs people want to discuss. The intent here is to have sort of an open section where people dropping into our meeting can say stuff. I'll pause a moment, but mostly I see regulars. Okay. Charbel. GitHub runners.
Yeah. So the background on this is I want to use some of the newer macOS 13 Ventura APIs. And in order to do that, I need the macOS 13 SDK, which Xcode 14 provides. And Xcode 14 only works on macOS 12 Monterey. And I noticed we are using Big Sur, macOS 11, as our GitHub runner. And I think we should upgrade that to Monterey. I don't see it's going to break anything. We are not updating the minimum deployment target. We can still continue using 10.15 as we have been. Though I think we should try and move that to macOS 11 because then we can just do away with the weak linking. But I tested this locally, kind of created my own runner based on the description on the official repository. If I compile it with like the deployment target as 10.15 on Monterey with Xcode 14, it runs on macOS 11, macOS 12, macOS 13. Obviously, the new features only work on 13. And this will also enable us to enable the test that is disabled.
This doesn't. So you just said that this doesn't move what our minimum macOS dependency is.
It does not,
unless there's a bug. So it seems like kind of a non-issue, and I mean, whatever, just do it.
Okay. I did have one question. I did see we are splitting up the minimum deployment target based on architecture. Like if it's x60, x86, 64, we are using 10.14. And if it's ARM, we are using 10.15. I think there was a bug in between that, and that's why we have to kind of split it up that way. Maybe we should bring that forward to 10.15. I remember there was a reason for this, but I seem to have forgotten that reason, and git commit doesn't bring up anything. So
wasn't that just because 10.15 is the first system for ARM?
Oh, yep. Oh, yeah. But I think we can move the x86 as well to 10.15 then and just not have a split.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that means we're basically dropping support for Mojave.
We technically did on Apple Silicon.
Apple Silicon, I don't think ever ran Mojave.
Yeah. True.
So Mojave was first released in June
2018?
24th, 2018. And it was probably, it looks like the last version was released July 2021. So that's like 2 years ago. And if we bring our minimum up to Catalina, then we're still supporting Ventura -3 even. So that's pretty good.
And will be it till Sonoma, I think, on September, October, right? So yeah, we'll be supporting Ventura, 12, 11, and 10, 15. So 4
Yeah.
years, basically.
Okay. I think it's reasonable to drop Mojave.
I'll update that. I don't expect anything to break, but if it does, I'll fix it.
Yeah, my suspicion is that we'll bump into some number of end users somewhere, but it doesn't feel wrong. So I think if it makes our life easier, it's probably reasonable to drop Mojave support at this point.
Yeah, so I'll create a PR to upgrade the runner to use Monterey and Xcode 14 and get up the deployment target to Catalina.
Cool. Other stuff around that? Okay. I started reading through our old issues to close some of them. Mostly closing things that just, it's not that they're wrong, it's just that if we haven't touched the issue in 3 years, we're probably not going to fix it. So I started just closing some issues like that. Feel free to like argue or reopen them or something if you disagree with any of them. But I feel like the issue backlog is too large to be easily usable. So
Yeah, I was even thinking, I don't know how, I haven't tested how good is the search right now, but arguably one could even decide to close many more of them, like something that's more than even, let's say, 2 years old. You want to close it. That doesn't mean that you will never. I think maybe the problem is that you don't have a good way to say. It's not that we will never fix it or we don't want it unless you comment all of them, but just yeah, in 2 years, no one has been interested in it. So
yeah, I have not enjoyed things that auto close, so I am not yet ready to do that. Speaking
I
as someone
agree.
who
Auto
files,
closing is
I file a lot of bugs, and whenever an open source project ignores my issue and then it gets closed as stale, I get real grumpy.
yeah.
So I'm trying to leave ones that look like they're real bugs and sort of closing things like a feature request related to some macOS feature from 4 versions ago. You know, things like that are clearly, we're not going to do anything with that.
No, I mean, bug requests totally, but I think that the majority of the issues there are feature requests, which, I mean, there are definitely valid ones and missing things that would be nice to have, but yeah, again, if there's no time, but yeah. Anyway.
If no one stepped up to do that work, then it's probably not going to happen. Yeah, so that's kind of that footnote. Interestingly, unrelated to old issues, Alessandro, you maybe appreciate this. We had a customer that was making heavy use of audit D to the point of like melting their CPUs. And chatting with them, they had heard some rumor that BPF was non-performant, so they had like done everything on audit D. So I steered them over to BPF. That seems to have helped a bit, but it's not perfect.
I don't think they've tried the latest implementation we have in the experimental features.
And somewhere around the 5.3 version, you did a bunch of performance optimization, so they may have like just had some ideas predating that.
Yeah,
but
certainly the old implementation of BPF, the original one, is there for compatibility, and it's not. I mean, it works, but it's not the best performance-wise. If they were to try out the Linux events experimental feature, they would say that it is way better.
Is the native BPF stuff still better than audit D? What are we doing with this right now? Are you sort of on pause? Or are you still developing this stuff, or what?
We intend on spending additional time on it, but it's not the right moment right now. But yeah, it's likely we will expand this in the future.
Okay. I'm just noting that. Is any of that work other people can do, or is that really kind of tied up in what's in your head?
So we have several things to implement yet that are not there. That works well as an MVP, as a PSA.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think it is already usable. You can already get process events in a much better way. You get more information and it is more performant. But yeah, we do have follow-up work that we'd like to implement, like dynamic tables, for example. So being able to, you provide your own probe in C format, and we create a table on the fly and keep it up to date with the new events, but also additional features like socket events and so on.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool. Well, hopefully it will be the right moment and more work can go forward. Meanwhile, I don't know. Other stuff happening? Other stuff people want to talk about?
I'll jump in here. At PSU 2 weeks ago, I chatted with Lucas Hall a little bit about the declarative device management stuff that they're doing, that Apple's doing. And there was mention of a JSON that they create and send back, but don't leave on disk. And so part of that discussion was encouraging Apple to leave the JSON on disk so that we could possibly look at it with Osquery. So just kind of putting that out there. If anybody else talks to Apple developer relations or anything like that, to possibly bring that up.
Is there any way we can see that? Because if I remember the Apple presentation right, it's sort of a bunch of like built-in abstractions for how to manage devices. So you can kind of create one big JSON blob, which has some customization based on various attributes. So like, is there a way to get that info? Like can we invoke MDM client or some other thing or some private framework?
I don't know that exists, and that's kind of what spawned the conversation about having either a method that we can call locally to get that detail that's being sent back, to the MDM API, or leave that package or that JSON basically in place that we can look at it.
My suspicion. So my gut sense is that anything that leaves a JSON file behind is going to go weirdly out of date, because that's kind of the problem we've had with all the p-lists. So if there's any kind of internal framework, it's probably going to be more accurate. You'd also end up seeing something like, I guess, I don't know, I'm just, all of the p-lists, I feel very burnt by p-lists. So I feel like JSON is likely in the same boat.
Yeah, I don't know what the solution is. From the conversation, it was mostly that nothing is being left behind, and there's no mechanism locally to see what's being sent. So encouraging them to do that before Sonoma's released, or as part of this declarative device management process, I think would be beneficial for especially Osquery.
It does seem like a good inspection. Kind of one, yeah. I wonder. Seems like the kind of thing Monkey or Jamf would also be interested in, kind of all of that space. Other stuff. There are lots of PRs that could use reviewing. Don't know if it's interesting to go through them here or just pause and then kind of give people some time back.
Did we declare the stable release?
We did. We declared 591 stable. I haven't updated the website yet because I got distracted trying to automate it.
I just saw a PR about that. Does it work now, do you think? Do you need help?
The problem I ran into is that the GitHub Actions bot that I created the PR with hasn't signed the CLA. So I'm currently in a conversation with Easy CLA's support staff about whether we can create exemptions to that. I'm not hopeful. I think I'm just going to make a PR so that we can merge this, and I'll fight with CLAs and automation later. But it does look like it worked, other than the CLA. So, yeah.
Oh, man. Like, oh, that's just, I just feel sad hearing that that's stuck there. Does this process need to involve a bot creating a PR? Can a bot just create a commit?
That's a good question. I hadn't tried that. I sort of felt like it was a good idea to run it through a PR first, but maybe you're right, and we could just have GitHub Actions push a PR directly or push a commit directly.
Because I think that's usually how we do the deploy manually, right? Is like you do a PR, you do a PR to source, but then you do just a commit to.
So there are two steps here. The first step is to change the schema and the download hashes, right? It's to add the new release to the schema and the download hashes. And I was doing that as a PR, not as a commit straight to source.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense to me.
But arguably, you're right. Maybe it's better just to push that straight to source and just be like, whatever, GitHub Actions can push to source and be done with it. So that's not crazy. Maybe I'll try and do that.
If that could work, like I definitely would see how you'd rather have it PR first. But if we're seriously stuck on like some CLA stuff with bots and like, then I would rather just see it working, especially if you're close.
I mean, the PR looks okay to me. I'd approve it.
Can we? if I remember, there's a way to allow PRs to be merged without all of the status checks passing.
I'm not sure, and that may be a bigger can of worms than just auto committing.
Yeah, I don't think PR by PR. Like it's global. Either you have the checks or not. Another alternative could be having a user dedicated for that.
Yeah,
Don't have your own token, but then yeah, it's a full user. So
I just don't want to do that.
Mhm.
I'll try just pushing a commit straight to source. I think you're right. I think it's silly not to do that. I think that's a fine stance. So I'll give that a shot and maybe just push it straight to source. I hadn't looked at automating the deploy, so like when source gets updated, we ought to be able to auto trigger whatever the GitHub Pages push is. I just haven't unpacked that, so I was going to do that at some unspecified future date. But yeah, that's how this breaks down in my head. It's like one thing and then the other thing. So I'll try just pushing straight to source.
Wait, Seth, hold on. Sorry. So it's this release 5.9.1 PR that's the issue, number 282. So right now it says like merging is blocked. Merging can be performed automatically with one approving review. So like if I drop an approving review on it.
Well, that's interesting. Hold on, let me go look.
Okay, so I dropped an approving review and now it can be merged.
Oh, we can just merge it over the CLA failure. Yeah.
Yes. And in fact,
yeah, that's not wrong.
I just looked at our configurations and it does not require status checks to be passing. You actually have to explicitly configure the branch protection rule to require the status checks to be passing, which we haven't done, which we can do. But we might as well not so that we can make your thing work right now. I'd rather just see it work, especially if we're talking about the website. Like,
yeah, I'm good with this. Well, actually, let me ask: would people rather that? So this is currently. So this is not a very fancy level of automation, right? Some time ago, I wrote a tool and checked it into Osquery site, which generates effectively this commit. And I used to just run it manually. I think you did once or twice, Zach, as well. I basically stuck that into into a GitHub action. So it's still it's a manually triggered GitHub action, but it pushes us forward a little bit. Would people rather see that just commit to source directly or open a PR?
No preference.
yeah, I mean, I don't particularly care. The PR seems nice so that you could double check that it looks like it's doing the right thing. But
okay, I'll leave it as a PR.
And if that's what you've already got, like I'd rather see you spend as little more time on this as possible and appreciate the work that you've done.
DevOps is always, it expands, it fills time. Okay, well, we'll leave this as is then. There's like a lot of little grotty edges to it. I feel like every few months I like push automation forward one step, and but it seems good enough. So okay, we can merge this and run a deploy. Cool. Thank you for noticing that, Zach.
Give me the easy jobs, man. It's perfect.
Yeah. I think the only other things I kind of have outstanding are just PRs, review PRs, especially mine.
Sorry, Seth, you're saying you have PRs that you put in that need review?
I have one PR that I would very much like to get reviewed. which is about disk encryption. Then there'll be another one that isn't from me. This one, add indexing to block devices. That one. I haven't even looked at this code in like a year. So, yeah, there's that one.
Okay, I can take a look at that.
Thank you. I will tag you in it. Then there's a follow-up one about disk encryption, which is a little bit more subtle. But between these two, they fix a ON squared bug and a disk encryption bug that we have around traversing parentalist status. So this should fix like disk encryption checks across LVM partitions and nonsense like that. I can try and tag you. I'll tag you on both of them, Zach.
Okay, thanks.
They're relatively small, but they are a little subtle, I guess. So what else do we have in PR land? Stefano, I'm trying to keep up with your PRs. I think you've got a couple more in, but I'll get to them.
And more will come.
No doubt. We have one about yCloud instance metadata that came in recently. And something about event index mutexes. Anyone feel like comments on this one? Did someone look at this yet? No. Anyone feel like they understand the event system enough to review a PR?
Which one is that?
8077.
Thank you. I'm spending more and more time in there, so I can take a look at the events.
Cool. I'll tag you on that one. What else do we have here? That one, I feel like I had questions on. I'll try to look back to that one. 8067 looks like extensions and timeouts. I don't know if that's an area familiar to someone. Looks like a good idea. Yeah. I'll tag it onto our milestone and we can loop back to that one. Other stuff? People want to talk about anything? If not, maybe we end now and take half an hour to review PRs.
Yeah, I can take some of this time to review.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. If no one's got anything else, I say we end early. I'll type up the notes about automation and try and push that stuff forward a little bit more in this half hour so we can finish getting 591 out. Okay.
All right.
Thank you all for your time, commits, reviews, and everything. So,
Thank you.
Thanks,
see ya.
Alan.
Right.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.